Hello and welcome to Devtoberfest 2023. I'm Srinivasan Neelamegam, developer advocate at SAP. With me, I have Rekha, who is also a developer advocate at SAP and will be a co-host for this session. This is week one of low code, no code sessions. The topic for today's session is From Idea to Reality, Simplifying App Development for Everyone. Before we begin, I want to remind our attendees to join the Devtoberfest group in the SAP community so that you can be eligible for the Devtoberfest contest and a grand prize of a trip to California. A link to the Devtoberfest group is in the description below, and we'll add it to the chat as well. I would now like to invite our speakers, Kanishka Raguraman and Esme Xavier from SAP, to introduce themselves and start today's session on SAP Build.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you, Rekha, for having us over here. So I am Kanishka Raguraman. I'm a product enablement associate at SAP Build. Been with this company for 2 years now, and I'm also one of the first generation citizen developers who started using SAP's low-code technologies to build technical solutions to solve real-world problems with the customers and partners.
All right. And hi, everyone. My name is Ishmael Xavier, and I'm a product specialist for SAP Build Apps. And I've been on my own citizen developer journey for 3 years now. And this is also my second time participating in Devtoberfest. And I'm very happy to be here and share with you a special app that we're going to be building today with Kanishka. So I'll hand it back over to you, Kanishka.
Yeah, thank you, Ishmael. I'll start sharing my screen now, if that is fine. Yeah. So today we are gonna see how to build applications using our SAP low-code tools. So before we get started, we have this small tradition of having some fun session before we start our meeting. So here we go with some opening memes. So this is the first time you heard of SAP. Yeah, it's a world of Narnia with some crazy uh, tools for enterprises and amazing technologies. Since we are gonna do some low-code programming, some programmer memes. Yeah, this reminds me of my university days. And to the meme where SAP started to invest in low-code, no-code technologies because of which we are here today. So coming back to our session regarding this SAP build tools, today we're going to see about SAP Build Apps, how to build applications, how everyone can build applications, and how they can change from convert their ideas into reality using our SAP Build Apps. So before we get started, we also want to do some redefinition and take you back to the very basic things about an application. So let's start today's session with a very basic discussion. So what is an application? An application in general is a program that is designed to do some specific task. For example, let's consider a weather application. So this weather application will display weather information to you based on your location. And if we consider a messaging application, this application lets you contact your friends and family anytime. And we also have this camera application, which can capture amazing moments of your life and so on. So what is this application in general? So application will have two parts, which is the front end and the back end. So this front end is the user interface, what the user can see, and back end is the place where the specific task is happening. So in the case of this weather application, The application on your phone is the front end part, which will display the weather information and the forecast information based on your location. And the backend for this weather application will be this storage place which has all the data information stored, weather information stored worldwide. And this backend information will provide the data to all the weather applications, to different user based on their locations. So to even simplify the explanation of this front end and the back end, we can consider an application as a restaurant. So in a restaurant, we'll have the dining and the kitchen. So the front end is the dining, where the users or the customers have access to, and the dining is the place where the main cooking is happening. So similarly, we also have a waiter who takes the order from the front end and takes the order to the kitchen so that he can get the order, he or she can get the order for you in the dining to consume it. Similarly, we have something called API in applications, which will take the input from the users in the front end application and takes it back to the back end and gets the specific information based on this user requirement. We can also we also have a pictorial representation of how this API actually works. So this is how an API works. So it takes input from the front end, takes it back to the back end, and gets the response based on the user's requirement. So this is how an application will work in general. So coming back to our SAP Build Apps, continuing with this restaurant analogy, we can say our SAP Build Apps is a fast food, where most of the ingredients are ready, and we just need to customize our choices to consume it. So in this case, we will just customize our components, pre-built components, and have our applications ready. So using SAP Build Apps, we can build native applications. So SAP Build Apps is not only a low-code application builder, it is also a rapid application builder. So using SAP Build Apps, we can rapidly build applications, test it, deploy it already, and even forget about it. So SAP Build Apps is a low-code application tool, and it doesn't differ a lot from a basic application. It will also have a front end and also a back end. So we have this front end tool which can where you can create amazing UI for your users, and then we will have back end. So this back end can be anything. So let's see what a backend is. Backend is a shared storage device which can store bytes of data in terms of text and images. So why do we need a backend to store this text and images? Why can't we store this images and text in the front end part itself? So this is the first question I got in mind. But for this, let me give you an example. Let us consider a food delivery company based in California. So this company delivers food from restaurants worldwide. So based on the statistics from 2022, they were around 825,000 restaurants that's being delivered, that's delivering food using their application. So let us assume each restaurant will have 1 MB of data uh, in order to display the menu in forms of the text and images. In that case, for 825,000 applications, we would need 825 gigabits of data for the application to run on your mobile device. So which is technically not possible because we have limited storages on our mobile devices. So for this, this company have their own cloud system where they have all this gigabytes of data stored on the cloud, and they also created this front end application for the users where the users can access restaurants only based on their locations, so that they would not need the entire 825 GB of data to run the service on their phones. So this is how we can simplify our solution using the backend systems. And there is also another advantage of using cloud backends, which is to send updated information for the users, some real-time updated information. So let us go back to our this delivery partner application. So the restaurants might also update their menu now and then. So if the users would need to get this updated menu, they would need to update their application also, which cannot be expected all the time. So in order to do this, we have this cloud storage where this information, the menu is updated directly, so that the users will get the updated menu irrespective of the versions of the applications they are using. So this is another reason why we use backend systems in our application instead of storing all this data in our front end part, in the front end part of the application itself. And when we come back to our SAP systems, what build apps, what are the backend for the SAP build apps? So for that, we have SAP S4HANA system, we have SAP Ariba, we have SAP Success Factors, we have MRC system, Customer Cloud Experience, Google Maps, Open Weather, and so on. So it may not necessarily be an SAP system. We can also have third-party systems as a backend for our SAP build apps. And last but not the least, we also have our own backend tool, which is we call as SAP Build Visual Cloud Functions, which is a low-code backend tool that can be used to store the text data from the build apps. And this is all maintained, created using the low-code paradigm as similar to the SAP Build Apps itself. Yeah. So this may all this information may look easy, but these integrations are not that easy and citizen development friendly. Because these backend systems will often have sensitive information, it needs to be secure, and they will have different levels of security. Luckily, SAP Build and Build Apps is a service on SAP Business Technology Platform. So this will simplify the integration of SAP solutions into your applications. You can easily integrate your applications to SAP services through destinations. And when you enable BTP authentication in SAP Build Apps environment, you will be able to access these destinations and add integrations. So basically, SAP BTP destinations provide security to the data and verifies your credentials and provides easy access to the services. But for third-party services like Google Maps or iCloud or anything, we can't provide this kind of easy integrations because it involves a lot of security layers, and every developer has their own way of developing their security features for their services. So this is where we emphasize the importance of Fusion team collaboration. So setting up these destinations and integrations in your build apps environment will be easier for an IT expert or a professional developer. And using them in your build apps environment will be easy for this SAP builders. So this Fusion Teams development will make your build experience easy peasy and lemon squeezy. And coming back to our SAP Build Apps, so there are three stages of building an application using SAP Build Apps. So the first one would be the data integrations, and the second one would be adding the logics for your application, and third one would be the designing UI for your applications. Yeah. So to cook food, we need some ingredients, and to build apps, we need some data. So creating an application without proper data source is like having food without proper spices. Yeah. So similarly, you can also build logics for your applications on how you want your application to react. So this will be the like creating logics will be the cooking phase where you decide what you want to do with your data, how this data will be transformed in order to provide a proper service for your users and stuff. And the finally creating this UI is like the garnishing stuff. So UI building and user experience is as much as important as the functionality of your application. So as we're talking about this restaurants and cooking, the taste of the food alone is not enough. It should also look good enough for the users to enjoy this experience. So you can build UI for your application in the SAP Build Apps using our visual programming, where we will have this pre-built components ready, and you just need to drag and drop these components into canvas and create some amazing UI and reactive UI, and customize the color, the size of your components, and the way your information and data is being displayed. Yeah, so now let's get to know about our app builder, how it looks and how we can use it. So this is my build lobby. I'll do a quick refresh so that I'm not timed out. So I can now go here, create a project. So in order to create a project, I will select and build an application, because we want to build an application here. And now here we can see two options for to build an front end application, or you can build an application backend, which is the Visual Cloud Function project. So let me quickly show how this front end part looks like. So this is our app builder environment. On the left hand side, we have a component library which has lots of pre-built components, like the title, the text, and many forms of components. So in order to use these components, you can simply drag and drop them to your UI canvas. So now you can also customize how you want this component to be, how this component will look on your screen. So you can change the title over here, checkbox, and you can also select how the value of this how this value is represented, and you can also change the many properties like disable, so that like users cannot change the values of this value, and so on. And then we also have this logic composer, logic builder, similar to this app builder, where we can create a logic. So it is similar to this UI canvas. We have lots of logic functions available in this in this library, where you can drag and drop them into our logic canvas, and then connect your logic nodes, so that you can create a logic for your application. So this component library is not limited to this existing components in the library. We also have a marketplace where we have more than 400 visual and logic components, which you can use to make your application even more sophisticated and looking good. Yeah. And we have this data tab, where you can add different types of data integrations into your applications, like an on-device storage, or also you can also add your SAP systems using the BTP authentication. In order to do this, first we would need to enable BTP authentication, so that it will authenticate the users. So you can also add third-party authentications like Google authentication, Microsoft authentication, or and so on. So I'll just enable this BTP authentication here. So now here we can see we can add an integration, and either select a Visual Cloud Function, which is the backend for our SAP Build Apps, or I can also choose any BTP system, where it is already set up in the BTP environment by my IT admin. So this way you can add integrations to your application. You can also add some REST APIs and OData integrations if you have the URLs ready. So you can add some third-party APIs and OData integrations. So you can also use the SAP APIs and SAP OData integrations here using this classic data entity, or you can have it set it up in the BTP cockpit itself, so that it can be accessed by all the citizen developers who have access to the SAP Build lobby. Yeah, and then we can also create multiple pages for your application, which is like multiple screens, like a home screen, and save a screen, and many more. So you can create a new page here. Where you will get a default page again. So now you can create a new visual version of your application, and you can also add a logic to this page, and so on. And we also have a theme option here so that you get some default theming options where you can select the color palettes over here, so that when you're adding it to your visual component, when you're adding it to this visual components in your UI, you can already get the layouts over here, the color palette layouts. You can select the colors here. So here you will have some default colors based on the themes you select. If you don't see the color you want, you can also create a new palette over here. And if you have the hex values or RGB values, you can directly import them, or you can use this gradient to select the color pattern you want, and you can give a name to this color so that you can access this color again. You can reuse this color again and again when you want to do some changes. Yeah. So this is all about the SAP Build Apps app builder, where you can create some amazing applications and stuff. Yeah. So before we create an application, the main requirement would be is a problem. So once you have a problem, only then you will be able to create a solution to it using applications, or by creating an application or creating a process, or anything. So for today's session, we need a problem. So there is a problem with me. That problem is me. So I've been growing very badly recently, not vertically but horizontally, because I don't have control over my consumption of junk food. So Yashmi, I have a small information for you. I don't have the problem, and I am the problem. So can you help us now, Heshmate, how we can solve this problem?
Yes, I'm glad you asked, Kanishka, because I actually do have a solution for you. And so I will now share that with you. All right. Okay, so I think I have a solution for your problem, Kanishka. So let's actually sketch it out, and we're going to make an app out of this, okay? So the solution we have come up with is we're going to regulate your food consumption by building an app that tracks your diet. So let's break down the parts of this solution. So first, we will make an app that scans the barcode of products. And then it's going to pull the details of that product from a food database to get the nutritional information of the product. And we're going to add the calories to a list. And then we'll add an additional feature where we can add every scanned item into a list that tracks our diet and stores it on our phone. All right, so does this sound good to you?
Awesome, Esme. But how do we get started now?
Okay, well, let's actually delve into the requirements next. So for the requirements of this app, first up is going to be data, and this is the main requirement. So there's actually two types of data that we're going to be using in this app. And the first one is input data, and then the next one is output. So input data is what we're going to be pulling from a database called Open Food Facts. So maybe in the year 1990, I would have had to create a database of all the food items first and then make an app based on that. But since this is 2023 and we're now making apps without code, instead of making a database from scratch, I'm going to use this existing database with all of the diet information. And we also want to store our diet information. And since we want this information to be private, we're going to store this on device. And that's going to show all of the nutrient values in our current diets. The next requirement for our app is going to be logic. So just to reiterate what the app is going to be doing, going to scan a barcode, it's going to pull the nutrition data from Open Food Facts, and then we'll add these items to a list of our diet info, and that's going to be stored on our phones. So does this sound good, Kanishka? Are you ready to start building?
Yeah, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start building. So I will now switch over to my app builder view. Okay, so I've already kind of configured some UI elements here, so we can actually just go ahead and start setting up our data resource, which is the Open Food Facts database. We have some text elements here, the button for scanning, and then an area down here where we'll store the product information. And you can see that we're already getting hungry here, so let's go ahead and get started. So to set up the first data resource, I'll open the data tab and you can see all the different types of data resources available. We can actually go here to the classic entities and head to the marketplace. And here you'll actually see some pre-installed data entities, and we can select the Open Food Facts one and install it. So the IT team has actually already installed this as a data resource that I can use. So we don't actually need to configure anything with the API as we used to do in the past. This is actually already ready to go. So that's pretty handy here. So if everything looks okay, we can actually already test this out and make sure that our API call is up and running. There's a sample barcode here, and we can go ahead and select run the test. So a bunch of information is returned from the API, and I think everything is working. What exactly are we looking at here, Kanishka?
So we are looking at the response from the server from the call where we used for using this test value. So we see we have SAP Build Apps can only respond to JSON request. So this response is in the JSON format, and we have a structures of data.
Perfect. Then I think this is working perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and set the schema from the response and save that data entity. So now our API connection is up and running. So I'm going to save again, and we need to now set up something in the app that will store that information. So this is where variables come in handy. So back on the UI canvas, we can switch over to the variables view. And we have different types of variables available. I'm going to add a new data variable. And since I set up my Open Food Facts API, it's already available here to use. So I'm going to select this data variable, and you can actually change the type here. I'm going to change it to a single data record, since I'm only pulling one record from the database at a time. And also you can change the logic of this data variable. So actually these things I don't need at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove them and save. So this is now ready to go. So now we can go back to the view canvas, and with just like that, our first data set is ready to use in the app. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to add some logic to our UI to actually start using this data. So I'll open up the logic canvas for this button. And so the first event that usually happens is when you tap the component, which is here by default. And here in the logic canvas marketplace, I can look for the scan QR code flow function, and I'll just drop it right there and connect it to the component tab. And so the next thing is get record. So you can actually see that there's different flow functions associated with data here. So I'm selecting the get record flow function. And so I've attached it now to the scan QR code flow function here on the logic canvas. So I'm actually going to select this, and I need to also open up the binding for this flow function. And you can do that here in the properties tab. And so we want to make sure that everything is connected properly. So it needs to actually be attached to the output value of the previous node, which is scan barcode. And we want the QR or barcode content. So let's save that now. Okay, so I also just need one more flow function here, and that is set data variable. So I'm going to also drag that here and attach it. And I also need to make sure that these properties are correct. So I'm going to open up the binding for data, select output value, and this time it's the one before it, which is get record. And we want it to output the the record here. So this is fine. I'm going to go ahead and save. So, okay, looking at the logic for my scan barcode button, does this all look correct, Kanishka?
Yeah, Ishmael, I think it's really cool. So it's very simple, I guess, and straightforward. When I
Okay,
click on the
perfect.
button,
Great.
yeah.
So I think this makes sense now. This takes care of the logic for our scan barcode button. So now we can actually go back to our UI components and make this information actually display our product info. So first, what we'll do is this text component here under product info. And right now it's undefined and it's hungry for food. So we can actually bind it to the data from our food facts. So I'm going to open up the binding for the content here. And for this, we can use a formula. And I have a formula ready to go here that I'm just going to copy and paste into the formula editor. And so if we just look at this quickly, what it's going to display is the energy per 100 grams and then the actual number of calories. And this is, again, pulling that information from the Open Food Facts database. And you can see an example of how that's going to look here in the example results. So I'll go ahead and save that. Okay, so I think that should be it actually for the scanner portion of our app. So now are you ready for the grand finale of this app, Kanishka?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how we can track this information now.
Okay, good. Me too. So now we can add the diet tracker portion of this app, this feature. So we already set up the first data resource with the Open Food Facts. Now we need to move on to the other data type, which is the items that we're adding and tracking on our diet list. So let's open up our data tab again. This time, remember, we're using the on-device storage. Let's call this tracker and add it. Okay, so now we've created this new entity for tracker, and we need to add a couple of new fields here. And one of them is going to be for food and another one for the energy or our calories. So maybe while I'm doing that, Kanishka, you can explain why are we setting it up in this way?
Yeah, so in order to track, we need two things, which is the name of the food and the energy value, the consumption value. So I guess we were using these two values here. And one is a text, the name of the food, and since the calorie values is a number, we have the field type as text and number.
Great. Okay, so I think this is fine. So then I will go ahead and save. All right, so this is now ready. I'm going to exit and we can go back to the UI canvas. And so just as we created a data variable last time for the other resource, which is Open Food Facts, we need to do the same thing again for this resource as well. So I'm going to go back into the variables and create another one. And there it is, our data entity, the tracker is already available. So now I can actually check and see if I need to change any of these things. Does this look fine to you, Kanishka, with these current settings?
So why do we have a delay here?
Good question. So we'll leave this delay here and you can actually open it up and see the time that is showing here. It's around every 5 seconds. The data is going to be updated in the app. So I think this is perfect for our use case now. So if this is okay, we're going to go ahead and save.
Okay, so that every time I add a new food, it will be updated because of this delay function. Awesome, great.
Exactly. Great. All right. So now let's go back to our view canvas here. Okay. So I need to add one more button and we'll call this one add to my diet. Let's go ahead and open up our logic canvas. And so now we need to create a record for this new item that we're adding to our diets. And let's go ahead and open up the bindings. So we have our object with properties, and here we have the two fields of the data entity that we just created. So I'm actually going to add a couple of formulas to one for the food and then one for the energy. And I also have them ready to go here to copy and paste. And we're using brands here so that it will show the brand name of the product that we just scanned. And for the energy, okay, so again, this is the energy and it's showing the number of calories per 100 grams. All right, I think these are all configured, so I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay, and we're almost done. We just need to add one more UI component, and that's a card. So I'll change this here, and this one is going to be something that we can interact with. So it'll say tap to view your diet. And we'll also change this text within the card so that it displays a total of calories. And we can use a formula for that as well. I have another formula here ready to go. So there's many formulas available in SAP Build Apps. This one is going to show the sum by key. So it's connected to our data entity, and you can customize it to show whatever you want, basically. And in this case, we're showing the calories here. Okay, so this is almost done. I'll go ahead and save one more time. And last but not least, we need to add a new page for our diet. So I'm creating a new page and calling it diet. I don't need these text components, so I'll get rid of them. And on the UI, I'm actually going to add a basic table with a data adapter. So it's already installed. So I will go ahead and just drag it on here and then start configuring it. And our on-device storage entity is here, the tracker. And here you just make sure that you have everything selected that you want to display. So I just need to display the name of the food and the calories. So I save it. Okay, and I think everything is done. Just one last finishing touch so that we can make sure that this component actually opens up the next page. So I'm selecting this card again, and I will add the open page flow function. And then just to make sure, yes, it's already selected, it opens up the diet page. So now when we tap on that card, it's going to open up the next page and you should see all of your diet information. So, okay, I think that's it. Does everything look good, Kanishka? Are you ready to test this out?
Yeah, that was really quick. It was like some professional developer building an application. That's really cool. But how do I test this application because you created this project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we can actually show off some of the amazing Fusion team capabilities of SAP Build Apps with our project sharing features. So I'm switching over back to the lobby view, and here I have my healthy eating app, which I was just working on. And here in the lobby, I can actually add you to this project. So I am going to add your email address, and then I'm going to keep you as a viewer since I'm the administrator of this app. I don't want you to mess anything up, and I worked very hard on it. So that is the permissions you'll get. I've added you now. So you can go ahead and open it up on your end from your lobby, and you can open up the preview and test it out, and we can see everything in action.
Yeah. Thank you, Ishmi, for trusting me with the viewer access and not the developer access. Let me share my screen now and see how it looks like from my end. So this is my lobby. Let me quickly refresh. Okay, I see the application now. Cool, I can access.
All right.
Okay, now I understand why I had to give me the viewer access. I can't. Right, let me preview by opening the launch and preview portal. So I can preview this application on web also, but since we are using some mobile device capabilities, we can't use the native features of mobile on the web. So I'll try to use the mobile application. I'll authenticate my app now. on the Build Apps preview app on my mobile phone.
And while you were doing that, I added another little surprise for you into the app so we can also see the live changes happening to the application project.
Yeah, so this is the LCP Build Apps preview app. And after authentication, I can see all the applications here. Okay, now I need something to scan. I have a famous Indian snack with me. Still waiting for breakfast here. Wow,
Ooh.
it's too much, I guess. So
Maybe not the best thing for the diet.
Okay, let me add this to my diet now. Cool.
Ooh.
And let me see how much calories my water bottle has. Just 20 calories. I didn't know water also has some calories.
I didn't know water had any calories.
Yeah. Okay. Kirkland, the Maggie and the Kirkland. Cool. Wow. Thanks for the surprise, Ishme, over here.
So hopefully this keeps you motivated.
Yeah, I try to be strong. Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully this is a great app and we can both use it together on our healthy eating journeys.
Yeah, cool. That's really cool how we were able to create developer idea into a reality in such a short time. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you had a great time and can try out this app also.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kanishka and Esme, for a wonderful and insightful session on SAP Build. I personally enjoyed this session a lot and it was fun. For the attendees, I have an important note. In order to earn points for today's session, you may want to complete the tutorial for the session. A link to the tutorial is in the chat as well as in the description below. Thank you all for joining today's session and I hope you have a very good rest of the day.